right, thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk about kickoff coverage, and the majority of the presentation is going to be about technique and fundamentals, but we're also going to get into some scheme, all right, and hopefully show you some good clips of some of the techniques showing up in conjunction with the scheme. All right, to start, we break the field down into zones, okay, and regardless of the scheme, regardless of the direction that we're kicking the ball, all right, we always fall back on our full speed decision making in these areas of the field, okay? The first part is the takeoff, which is the area before the kicker hits the ball, right? And how we approach and stay on sides. We'll talk about that here in a minute. The next area, which is typically the biggest space on the field, is what we call the fly zone. And that's an area where we're trying to avoid all blocks. We'll talk about how we do that technique-wise. And then we get into the strike zone, and that's where we're in close proximity to the returner and often have to go through a block to make a play to not open up a seam. And then finally the finish, right? Every play has a start, every play has a finish. Ultimately, we want to get the ball on the ground and get our defense out there on the field, okay? We have some mantras that we talk about often, right? And these are the buzzwords, so to speak, that our players should be able to talk to us about when they're coming off the field, whether it's in practice or a game or in the meeting, right? We're all speaking the same language. Things we talk about, full speed decisions, right? We've got to play fast. We got to play at top end speed, covering ground on a kickoff, all right? Fly in the fly zone, again, that's that area of the field where we should be at top speed, avoiding all blocks. When in doubt, two gap. We'll talk about our two gap technique, but again, we don't want to create seams where yards can be gained on the field. Front up the ball, right? That's going to prevent the ball from getting vertical, and then never get deeper than the ball. Something that I think applies to defensive football as well as to coverage units. All right, time and space, all right? Special teams is no different than offense or defense. There's just more time and space involved. And certainly on a kickoff, especially in the fly zone, there's a lot of time and space. We got to understand that. When we get close to the ball in the strike zone, right, there's minimal time and space. It's now the enemy. We can't end up on edges. So our guys understanding how much time and space they have relative to the decisions they're going to make is real important. All right, so let's start with the takeoff. All right, when the kickoff team starts sprinting and the ball's kicked. So what do we want to do there? All right, we've got to have our foot on or inside the 30-yard line to be in compliance with the rules of the game. All right, we're going to be in a loaded speed stance. So we're going to have all the weight on the ball of our front foot. We don't care which foot is up, whatever's comfortable for them, as long as they can see with their eyes the 31-yard line. And we talk about laser beaming the 31 because many of our cover guys will be able to see the kicker before he gets to the 31. We don't want to leave early because that's going to force us to break ourselves to stay on sides or even worse, be offsides, okay? So we laser beam, we lock our eyes in on the 31-yard line at a point where the kicker is going to cross it, all right, and take off and burst once he does, all right? We transfer our eyes downfield, and at that point we trust that we're going to be on sides. And ultimately what we want to see is that birds on the wire effect where we're all hitting the 35-yard line in conjunction, all right? So here we are, okay, you can see when the ball gets whistled in, all right, everybody's got their toes on or inside the 30. I don't mind if some of our guys cheat up a little bit so that they can see that 31-yard line spot, all right? They obviously have to have their toe in the 30, but moving up even all the way to the 31 is fine as long as they can see that spot. And when you look at our guys here, some of them have a different foot up, whatever they're most comfortable with. All right, now when the kicker crosses that spot, okay, off they go. Everybody's rolling off the ball of that front foot. There shouldn't be any false steps, any wasted movement. They should all be pre-coiled in those speed stances. We call it a loaded stance, all right? And that should allow us to go. And if I pause it right there, pretty good, right? Pretty good birds on the wire there at the 35. Everybody's got their eyes transferred down the field, all right? Ready to get into what we call that fly zone where they're getting the top end speed. Okay? All right, so now we're at the portion of the field where there's a lot of time and space, and our mindset should be to avoid all frontline blocks, right? The blocks that we're going to get in the fly zone are going to be frontline blockers, right? And we got to think about running around those guys, but not running away from those guys. And that's what we're going to talk about here next with our technique. Let's just watch one first. All right, this is from a few years ago at Maryland. First, watch the takeoff. Pretty good. All right, now watch the speed down the field. Okay, so you can see this is the point of the field we're talking about that we call the fly zone. These frontline blockers trying to block us, and everybody should be thinking about avoiding those blocks. All right, when you watch it from here, I want you to focus on these two players in the middle of the field. Okay, great job flying down the field. All right, we're avoiding a block, we're avoiding a block, we're avoiding a block, okay? We're not running through these blockers, all right, when the ball is away from us with a lot of time and space. All right, great job there getting that ball down inside the 20-yard line. So let's talk about how we do that, all right? When a blocker gives us butt side in the fly zone with time and space, we're going to assume, right, that he's giving us butt side because that's where the return is going. All right? Ideally, we're going to defeat that block butt side, okay? And we call that a backdoor, all right? That's the shortest distance to the return by defeating the block butt side, all right? The technique we want to use is a dip and drive technique. All right, and basically what that is I'm getting my foot in the desired direction, okay, foot in the ground, and I'm reducing my surface area. Essentially, I'm getting skinny, boring my shoulder through an edge of that block,